Venture capitalist Eric, before I accept your term sheet, I have just one more question.
Well, go ahead, founder Janel.
How much money do you make? And how do you make it?
Oh.
Okay, founders, just to be clear, I don't recommend asking the question from our intro exactly in that way, but it is relevant to today's Uncapped Notes episode topic, which is 3 critical questions we think every founder should ask before accepting money from a VC.
At this point, Janelle, we've made a bunch of Uncapped Notes episodes on how founders should engage with their VCs, talking about the mechanics of communication, alignment, and a whole host of other topics. Founders, you should go to youtube.com/hustlefund to explore what we've done in the past. But while we were preparing to record this episode, it felt like we should address 3 big questions that founders rarely ask their VCs.
Let's start with the first question that founders should ask their VC prior to accepting a term sheet or commitment to invest, which is, how do you get compensated?
Now, I do think that this is a really important question if it is framed around carry, or the idea of how profits are shared among a firm when a founder's company hits it big. At Hustle Fund, our partnership is modeled after benchmark capital, where we have an equal salary and equal carry model for all of our partners. That means if I am the one to discover and invest in founder Janel, and she goes on to make $10 billion of carry for us, think of carry crudely as profit again for now, then those proceeds are equally shared across the partnership at Hustle Fund.
This is an interesting compensation model because equal carry generally means that the partnership is quite team-oriented. Since everyone is compensated equally at the partner level, then all partners are incentivized to help the founder get to a big outcome. My understanding, however, is that equal carry partnerships are not common.
What is more common is that the partner who discovers the great founder Janel and hits it big usually gets most of the carry, and what remains is split with the rest of the partnership.
I can see why that is problematic. Then it means that it can be harder for partners to work as a team. If a partner is helping another partner's company in this situation, then they might be less motivated because they won't be paid out the same.
And that is the heart of why it is important for founders to understand compensation at this level within the firm. We're not saying that one model is necessarily better than the other, but founders should just know what it is like to work with that firm beyond just the partner leading the deal.
All right, Eric, let's talk about the second question that founders should ask VCs before accepting money. Where in the fund cycle is your current fund?
Aha! I don't think a founder has ever asked me this question in the past 7 years, but this is an important one.
Founders, in general, you don't want to be the last company that a VC fund will back for a given fund. Let's say that a typical VC fund is 10 years in fund life, and you're the last check that they write in year 5. Depending on what they have done to reserve capital later, and most good VCs do reserve capital, you might only ever get one check from that fund. And there could be no money left or no time left for that VC to ever invest a second or a third check into your company later on.
This is a super loose example above, but an apt one. While being the last check in a fund isn't necessarily terrible, it's generally better for a founder to get money from a VC fund that is fresh, where capital was somewhat recently raised, where there's a higher likelihood that money will be available for you later on that second or third round that you put together. So that is what you are trying to understand with the question of fund cycle, whether a fund is wrapping up new positions or just getting going.
And now we come to the last question that founders should ask VCs before they take their money. How fast can you wire?
Janelle, I am going to share something with you that seriously angers me. There are VCs out there who will sign docs to invest in your company, but they have no money.
Yeah, I've heard of this before. One situation where I've heard this happen is that the VC is still raising capital for their own fund and hasn't closed any money yet. So they have signed, but they are just putting founders in a holding pattern before they can actually send any money out.
Unfortunately, I've seen this a lot. And frankly, this happens more with new emerging funds. And I'm not trying to say that working with an emerging fund isn't good. I mean, Hustle Fund, our fund, is an emerging fund. But founders, just ask the question and be super clear that the VC has money in the bank before accepting terms.
The other situation I've heard about wiring issues is that while the VC may have completed their fundraise, they are having problems with their capital call.
Oh, yes. So the way that traditional venture capital works is that when a limited partner, Janel, commits, let's say, $1 million to my venture capital fund, she doesn't wire the full commitment up front. Instead, a VC will usually find a deal. Let's say in this case, it requires $100,000 from Janel. And then they will run a capital call to ask for that $100,000 to be wired from Janel at that moment to my fund in order to invest in the startup that I just committed to. As you can imagine, there can be delays with calls. Maybe the LP or limited partner is on vacation. Or more troubling, sometimes the LP doesn't have the money and needs extra time to fulfill the call. This doesn't happen often, but it does happen sometimes.
In any event, founders should get a clear explanation from the VC about the timing of the wire. They should understand whether there is money in the bank now for the VC to invest. And if the VC needs to run a capital call, they should know how long it will take for them to get the money to fund the deal.
Today, we covered 3 critical questions that every founder should ask their VC before accepting terms or an investment. They included, first, how the GPs, general partners, are compensated. Second, where in the fund cycle is the current fund? And finally, third, how fast does it take for you to wire? To date, Hustle Fund has invested in 538 companies. Not a single founder has asked me any of these questions before, but fortunately, none of these issues above have ever been a problem for us and our founders.
We want more founders to get educated about these questions and start asking. This could be critical in making sure you get the right support from your VC fund and that money is in your bank.
Thank you so much for watching today's Uncapped Notes episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya.